Good afternoon and welcome to You and Your Business with me, Alec on 103.2 Dublin City FM. Each week, I invite an expert from the world of business to share their knowledge, insights and tips to help you with your business challenges. If there's a topic you would like covered, or if you feel that you can make a contribution, please email me at yourbusiness@dublincityfm.ie and perhaps we'll be chatting here one day soon. And my guest today has worked in 6 sectors over a period of almost 30 years. She's worked internationally for small and medium Irish tech companies before setting up a family business in the property sector. And with 10 years experience in the commercial property sector, today she owns a flexible office space in Malahide with her sister. I'm delighted to welcome Barbara Nolan to the You and Your Business studio. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Alec. How are you? Thanks a million for having me on today.
I love the backdrop. I can only presume that's a view from your offices, is it?
It is. It doesn't get much better than that, does it?
No, you're making me jealous already.
Yeah. And particularly on a day like today, the sun is shining and it's gorgeous out there today. So
there we go. Well, thanks for making me even more jealous.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you keep saying you're going to come out and see us, by the way. When are you going to come out and see us?
Oh, don't you worry. That's definitely on the cards. Within the next 10 days, I'll be out there.
Good,
anyway, I'm going to put you under pressure now. I'm going to take you back to your last year in school and what you were thinking. And had you a plan? Had you a career mapped out?
I had to have a little think about that, before we came on today. And I absolutely loved French. I had spent many, many summers in France during, primary school and secondary school. So when I was in college, the 3rd year of the business degree was placement year. So the idea was that we would all go out, use all the knowledge that we had, garnered in the first couple of years, and go out and use that, working in an Irish company. But I saw this little opportunity with IBEC called the European Orientation Program, run by an amazing lady called Caroline Nash.
Right.
And they took, I think, about 80 students in the country per year. And basically, it was a sponsored program. And they worked with small to medium sized Irish companies who had their sights on European export markets.
Right.
So I really fancied this. Now, this wasn't something that the college promoted. This is just something that I kind of had in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. And a very funny thing happened. I went for this interview to a security company called Europlex, met a gentleman called Ian Jackson, who you know, also through various walks of life. And anyway, he had his Irish job and the interview was going very well. And I actually don't even know how I even said this, but I said, I don't want to waste your time anymore, because I could feel the interview was going well. And thought, well, if he offers me the job, I'm not going to take it. So I said to him, I really wouldn't like to waste your time anymore, but I really kind of fancy doing this thing called a European Orientation Program. And I'll never forget that moment. He just said, wow, really? Sat back in his chair, opened the drawer on his desk, and took out this big brown folder, this thick, obviously had loads of CVs in it. And he said, I'm looking for an EOP candidate. And the rest was history. Like, it was just the most amazing, surreal, kind of synchronistic moment. So, so I basically went on the program, sponsored by Europlex and IBEC. And I was based in France for 6 months, 9 months actually. Because I didn't have to do the language part of it because I had the language. And I worked with all of their distributors. And, if they needed to get customized programs or customized products for their banking clients, for example, I was kind of the link between the Dublin manufacturing plant and the distributors and the end clients. So did another year in college, and then I had the job with Europlex coming straight out of college, which was pretty awesome.
No, that was fantastic. And, and I suppose your love of French, it was certainly good enough to get you through. I presume you're fluent French, aren't you?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I haven't spoke French in 20 years now. Wow. And my daughter has just finished her leaving cert last week, 2 weeks ago. And, I was helping her with her oral and her oral and whatever. And it's all still there. It's wonderful. Now, neither of my daughters have the same love that I have. They both did French, but they don't have that same love I just absolutely loved it. It's amazing, even not using it, it's there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fantastic.
it's a great gift to have. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah,
So yeah, with Europlex, so it was great to come out of college, with that job. And then I worked for them a short amount of time in Dublin. And then they placed me over in France. I lived in Lyon and I worked, I was based there. And then the job, then they brought in then the Benelux area. So Belgium, Holland, and Luxembourg. So the, the region became
right.
wider. And then that then grew a few years later, and I looked after the whole Northern European sector. So that was Norway, Finland, Denmark were also brought kind of under my remit as well. So I loved that.
Well, it must have been a good face for Europlex. I mean, to have somebody who speaks fluent French over there, because we know how precious the French are about their language.
Yeah.
So that must have sort of put them in good stead with their
Yeah.
contacts
No,
over there.
they loved it. It worked brilliantly. So, when they'd come over to Dublin, we would give them the real Irish experience. I don't mean that to sound twee now, but we would often bring them up to Johnny Fox's and
Sure.
and when they'd come here, they'd bring over the foie gras and sauterne, wine. When I went to France, when I went to France, I always had to bring a bottle of Bailey's, brown bread, and smoked salmon. And this was just the gig. You had to bring a little bit of Ireland to them, and then they used to bring a little bit of France to us. But we all became great friends. I mean, we went on ski trips and everything. So, business relationships. Then, we did become, very good friends with the distributors as well. So, I suppose the first lesson, if you're talking about lessons, the importance of building long-term relationships. And I think even the year that we've all just gone through now, we're all saying people don't sell to them. You're building a relationship. People are buying from people.
Sure.
And I think that foundation certainly came from working with the French, rather than just being a manufacturer, just sending products over to France and not really caring what happened to them after that. The relationship was a very long-term and kind of nurturing relationship with these distributors who were selling our products out in the field on our behalf. So that was wonderful, like absolutely wonderful. So I suppose I got the bug of the whole European, working and helping Irish companies, expand into these other countries, which I loved. So I suppose I kind of hung on to that then for the whole career, really.
What was it like dealing with the different cultures in Europe? I mean, I know the French are supposed to be very loyal. It takes a while, but once you get in there, they are actually very loyal to people they work with. And what other dynamics did you see working with, various other Europeans?
The Dutch were completely different. I absolutely loved working with them. They're very kind of matter of fact and very straight, and you knew exactly where you stood at all times with them. The Belgians have their own little bits and pieces, and they certainly don't. I mean, even though half the country speak French, half the country speak Flemish, so you're kind of dealing with half more Dutch, half more French. They were just different, and even from region to region. Like if you go back to France and you're dealing with, the distributors down in the south of the country. I mean, even the whole lifestyle is completely different. It's much more laissez-faire. We might do meetings very early in the morning. The lunches could take 2.5 hours, sitting out in the sun. Versus if you went up to Mulhouse, which is where one of our distributors were based, and that was quite Germanic, and it'd be more like Ireland, where you'd have your meeting and you'd go out for lunch and then you'd be back, and it was much more stern. So, but listen, you just got to know the different areas, the different regions, the different clients in each of those regions, and you just molded how you worked with them, to get the best out of the relationship. But and it was good fun, and I suppose left there and, oh, sorry, I brought you in, Alec.
No, thanks very much. That's
Sorry, yes, that was the first time we met you. I think we were talking about this recently, and I think you were trying to get by the reception. You're probably trying to get to
a gatekeeper of some sort.
and you couldn't get by. And I think, if I'm correct, did you ring the day that I started the job or something? And they said, "Oh, a new girl."
I think it was
started.
close to that, all right.
Yeah. And yeah, and we met and we did a complete, rebrand, for Europlex, because it was a very technology focused company, as all of the companies that I worked for. They were all so similar. And I used to love joining new companies because I'd go, oh, here's another little rebrand coming up, and try and put kind of an umbrella of marketing around them, because it was amazing. Like, say, for the 4 or the 5 companies that I worked for, in those early days, it was all about what the client wanted. It was all about what the technology could do. But they weren't, they were never looking at it from the other perspective, from the general marketing perspective, in terms of how can we use this product but on more a mass market basis. And I suppose that's where I kept coming in. And I did hop around quite a bit. But I loved that.
But they were into, they all had something in common. Often they were founded by technology people whose, let's put it this way. Engineers who might be challenged from a communications point of view when trying to interact with their clients.
Yeah. No, they were all set up by R&D guys, engineering guys, techie guys. And they were never coming from the commercial sense. It was always the product. I think one huge lesson, everyone said, "Oh, are you a real techie?" I couldn't be any more technical, as you saw before we came on here. And we were trying to get set up. The business that I'm in now, my sister, she looks after all of that. I'm absolutely useless in terms of technology and all that kind of stuff. So, and I was working in sectors where we were doing RAID storage systems. We were doing automated optical inspection. I mean, do you even know what that means? You take your mobile phone and all the chips that are, on your mobile phone. We were doing this automated optical testing equipment, to check and make sure all of these exact pins were in the right order for Nokia or, whatever. Like, amazing technology. I didn't have a clue of any of the stuff, but it was actually really, really good, because, in marketing, they say, keep it simple and stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm stupid. I'm far from stupid. But the whole idea is put it into layman's English. What actually is this product going to do for the customer? How is it going to make their life better? So often, if it's the engineer or the amazing guy or girl who has actually created this amazing technology, but they don't actually know how to actually, as you say, communicate what it's going to do, or from a customer's point of view. So believe me, when I was going to very highbrow meetings with Singapore Telecom in Singapore, I wasn't going in on my own. I mean, I had the head of R&D with me. But we did do it as a team. So they'd bring me along, and I'd be doing all the client liaising, massaging would be the wrong word, my God, in Asia, but building the relationship with them. And often, if there was big problems, you're dealing with this, like, Singapore Telecom was one of our biggest clients for Spectel, and there was often we'd get like 24 hours notice where Jared, the MD, would ring and say, "Barbara and Rob, you're on the plane tomorrow," and we'd be on our way to Singapore, sitting in front of all these guys going, "It'll all be all right, it'll all be all right, and what exactly are you looking for, and we can make these changes." But yeah, it was a good combination, and it's obviously it worked. And I mean, that we went from what, security systems, into working with an American company for RAID storage systems, and backup systems, to these AOI for phones. So very different. And every time I'd bring you in, and I was trying to simplify the message, and then we got to have great fun putting our little design and creative hats on, and
And making it
making them look
accessible for,
lovely.
yeah, making it accessible for people who actually understood what was going on.
Yeah, loved all of that. Absolutely loved it, you know.
And I think
So
there's a lesson in there for people that if you're going to be communicating with your client, it should be relevant to the person you're dealing with. So if it's technology, it's a technology conversation with a technology person behind it. And if it's
100%.
not, it
Yeah,
should be somebody from marketing who understands,
yeah.
the benefits.
Yeah. And I mean, don't underestimate. I mean, when we were doing the brochures or we were doing the guides or the tool books or whatever, let's call it the fluffier end. Of course, we'd have that and it would look lovely and whatever, and the key core messaging, and in terms of, you know, what the company stood for, because all of these companies that I was working with, they had amazing stories. I mean, most of them had maybe 100, 120 people working for them. A lot of them would have started in incubation units, you know, IDA incubation. And it was pretty amazing to see them, you know, ideas born out of, you know, a small little incubation center. And I saw two companies actually be brought over. So like the last company, MVT, I mean, they were bought by Agilent Technologies.
Right.
So, and Spectel, another company, telecommunications company, they do teleconferencing. They were way ahead of their time. I mean, look at us now on Zoom and Teams and doing everything remotely. I mean, that's a long time ago, where they brought in audio and data conferencing. Oh, sorry about that. The alarm is going off here. So we will continue. Live on the radio here. So yeah, it was amazing to see them you know, evolve over time, and all these small Irish success stories selling, you know, Irish produced and Irish designed products everywhere, all throughout Europe, all throughout the States, all throughout Asia. You know, it was amazing. I loved being part of that.
And I think also what people fail to recognize often when they're starting these companies is that while they're very tech savvy, they need a communications channel that helps kind of bridgehead them to their potential clients. And that's where you fit in.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, there was one company that springs to mind, and that was Spectel. So they were the telecommunications company. And very sorry about this. There was a telecommunications company, and they were going to World Trade Centers. They were going to World Trade Centers, but they might have had, you know, a small little felt backed booth, and they would have had sticky things put onto it.
Oh, right.
And you're trying to get, you know, these big Deutsche Bank or the Belgian banks or American banks to come along, and they looked like very small, you know, very small companies. So what I had to do was try and actually present them as, you know, a large global, you know, global company, and they should choose our company.
Okay, can we?
I need to go and sort that.
Yeah, I'm just stopping. I'm just holding the district. Hang on a sec. I have to.
Oh my God.
Wow, it was amazing listening to, you know, all of these tech companies. And we were just talking about there how, you know, sometimes you have to portray yourself or punch above your weight, be seen by the relevant companies that are there. But I just want to move you on, Barbara, because all of this tech and traveling the world was great stuff, but you had other plans in mind. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I suppose it was the time when MBT got taken over by Agilent, and it was going in a certain direction. And my dad actually approached me, and he was a chartered accountant, and he always dabbled in property. So, you know, we had a commercial and a residential property portfolio. And he said, you know what, I'm actually going to sell the accountancy business, and I'm actually going to go into property full time because I absolutely love it. It was his first love. Right. And he said, would you like to come on board and do it with me? And we'll set up a new company. And I was like, property? I know nothing about property. And he said, you're a born and bred marketeer. He said, look at all the companies you've worked for across all those tech sectors and not knowing anything about tech. But he said, whether you're marketing an AOI system or a RAID system or a property, it is all the same thing. So I decided to jump ship. So that was in 2000. It was not long after 9/11, actually. I was actually working for an American company the day that 9/11, we all watched it on the TV screens. Sure. And we were all evacuated from the company, actually. We were so scared that day that, were they targeting all American companies? Because Agilent was part of HP. They were a very big company. Yep. So we all were sent home that day, actually. But it was basically the year after that. So 2002, I left the corporate world, we could say that. And I joined forces with my dad, and we set up a company called Investa Property Partners. Right. So, and actually you were with us on that one as well.
There we go.
Well, not rebranding. We had to get a brand. It was a brand new company, and we set up office just across the way from where I am here, and looking out on that view, which was a great. Beautiful change after being stuck over in Stillorgan Industrial Park for many, many years, and Sandyford Industrial Park. So that's what we did. And there was an existing portfolio.
Right.
And then we really kind of went into the development side of it. And again, Alec, you worked with us on that as well when we developed Mountfield. And that was really exciting. That was, again, I loved seeing stuff starting from nothing, and then you see it evolve and develop. And I know that's why you loved the whole creative design side as well, because it's tangible. You can really see it. Yeah. So to see a field, and then to see apartments and houses and bungalows and all that kind of stuff, it was wonderful. But I was looking after all of the interior fit out, all of the marketing, all of the promotion, all the selling. We had a team of people, but that was my remit. And I just happened to get pregnant in the middle of it all. And
just happened to get pregnant. Yeah,
about 2 weeks before we were launching, and the builder kept going, you're not going anywhere, Barbara. And I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. And I literally worked till 8 o'clock the night that I had Laura. So that's 19 years ago. And she was early. She was 10 days early. This did not fit in with the plan at all. And but you know what? It was my own business. It was a family business. I literally took Laura in a rocket tot when she was like 10 days old, 2 weeks old, and I was going around, picking lights and furniture and all that kind of stuff. And I just say to the guys, I knew them all, and I just said, I have a little accessory here with me today, and I just pop her underneath, behind the counter, and I'd go off and buy all the stuff. And you just did it. Now we launched, we did it, and it was amazing, and we sold out everything, and it was a great success story. I had my little tiny baby in the rocket tot with me, and then at 6 weeks, my dad says we'd launched and everything, and he goes, off you go. And I just went, and then I had the normal reaction that a normal first-time mom has, just having a baby,
Yeah.
So, but look, you do what you have to do,
That was a great story. And
that's what I had to do.
So Laura was part of it from the early days, more than she ever knew.
Yeah,
but this was to lead on to other things, because I'm conscious we come into the last sort of 5-6 minutes of the show that you've moved this on, and I just want to talk about that for a few minutes. To M Space. Tell us more about what prompted that, and this partnership you have with your sister now.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So, we were dealing with, very large companies that would take office space or office buildings off us. We would have, shops, restaurants, a very large variety of kind of retail, commercial clientele in our buildings. And more, I suppose, even kind of around the recession time, you'd see people setting up on their own. And nice. I'd often say to them, the rent is only one part of this. So we just looked after, they just gave us the rent. We didn't look after anything else. So I'd say to them, like, the Fingal County Council rates are very, very high. Have you checked out all the insurances, all the utilities? your light, your heat, like all the other costs. And I said, can your new business sustain all of those overheads? And they go, yeah. But we'd see more and more that it couldn't.
Sure. Yeah.
So we had the unit where I am now, just across the way, and British Airways used to be in that unit. They were there for 18 years. And then they, the group amalgamated and they moved out to East Point. And it's a magnificent unit, but it was either too big for some people or it was too small for other people. So we were finding it difficult to rent it. And I said to Carol Ann, my sister, who was in the business at the time, and Dad, I said, look, why don't we set up a new business and do it as a co-working space. So Dad immediately went, good luck to you. I'm in my 70s, absolutely no interest. But he said, if you want to become the tenant and you want to do this yourself, I'm having nothing to do with it. He said, I just need the rent, right? I don't care. And he said, but I'm not getting involved in another business. And if you want to do it, off you go. So Caroline needed a little bit of convincing. I said, Caroline, I really think there's a niche here. I really think there's walk in with your laptop and they sit down, they work away, and that's it. It's plug and play. They don't need to think about anything else. So we opened in July 19, Caroline and I set up a new business called M Space. So it's nothing to do with the other family business that we have.
Sure.
And July we opened, and we spent the whole time talking about save on commuting and work close to home, better life work balance, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And trying to sell the concept. And then February happened, and then March happened, and COVID shut down, and we basically have gone through 3 full lockdowns, full shutdowns. But there were tears the first lockdown. I remember crying on the Friday evening, and I remember my husband and Dad saying, everyone is in exactly the same boat.
Yep.
You got to do what you got to do. And I was going, we've just started up the new business. And they were like, it'll be fine. We're all, as everyone said, we're all in this together, but we were all in this together. And I think as far as new businesses go, it's a pretty cool new business to have set up just before the pandemic. And it's been quite amazing watching the change in terms of what people are looking for after each of the lockdowns.
Well, I can tell you that's a whirlwind tour. And unfortunately, we're running out of time. So where can people find out more about M Space?
My God, that went by very fast.
Oh, doesn't it?
So yeah, we'd love you to check us out. We're on www.mspace.ie. All of our details are on there. And we have a virtual tour that you can, even if you don't come out and meet us, you can have a little swirl around and have a little look around. And you can email us directly at hello@mspace.ie. I nearly sang that
Well, there's a great way to finish the show. And a special thanks today to our guest, Barbara Nolan, for coming into the You and Your Business studio. Thanks to Sam on Sound. The podcast today's show will be available on dublincityfm.ie from tomorrow. Thank you for your company. And please remember to join me, Alec Drew, again next week at the same time, right here on 103.2 Dublin City FM for another edition of You and Your Business.
Thank you, Alec.
Oh, there we go.
Oh my God, what's